Wow, I'm live. I guess I have to be on time since I'm not waiting on a guest and I can't tell anybody that I'm waiting on a guest or have a guest as an excuse that I'm not here. So I'm officially live, and today's going to be an interesting episode. It's all about me, which makes me highly uncomfortable. Those of you who follow me on locals will note that I made a post earlier today kind of talking about how I don't love just coming out here alone, hoping everybody's here and everybody wants to talk to me or hear from me, things like that. So I'm going to start off with some questions from the chat. I'm going to go to the locals article and share that with you and discuss locals, which has been very cool, and definitely just kind of just feel you guys out, see what you think about different things. So I'll start off with Ashish Kumar, and this is an easy one. Talk about meditation role in our life and mind peace in today's time. I don't really meditate. I guess the closest thing I would say to doing that is I'll take a nap listening to binaural beats, which is kind of like a brain thing. And I find it relaxing to have that. And I'm almost timed in exactly where this certain point plays and I wake up in that time period. Supposed to be good, supposed to help with the theta waves or something like that, but I don't actually do any kind of legitimate meditation. All right, so one thing I mentioned in the posts that I wanted to talk about was the jury selection with Derek Chauvin. And question for the chat: how many of you guys have been up for jury duty and considered getting called into a trial such as this? I mean, this may be one of the hardest trials since OJ. And truthfully, the idea of being on the jury to me is completely frightening. I mean, here's the problem: you have such a horrible, horrible situation. And I don't know that there's anybody in the country who is neutral on this case. Now, how would you like giving up your job for months, potentially at a time, for $50 a day to do your civic duty? And your choice is this: how do you find for the defendant or against the defendant? I see Pete, great seeing you here. I'm going to disagree with this. I would not be glad to sit on this jury because I do not see any kind of upside and having nothing but trouble. Do you want to get in a situation where, let's say, somebody does find him not guilty or that they did not prove the case, knowing that you can be doxxed, your family could be threatened, everything else? So those are your options. You could go ahead and either be a celebrity, because anyone voting guilty would probably be a celebrity right now. It's a really strong case, or you could be a villain, and that's a scary situation. I just want to put it out there. I mean, what do you guys think? What would you do? And let's see. Ziggy's been called to a jury duty 6 times, serving once on a week-long trial, then once for 1 day per month for 1.5. Oh, grand jury. That had to be interesting. Grand jury would be definitely interesting. But a case like this, though, I don't know. Being on a case where things are relatively unknown and you learn as you go, that's one thing. But one that could be potentially months and everything else. And again, Pete, I don't disagree with you. It's the cost of freedom, all of that. But that doesn't necessarily make it a great thing. I, I would definitely prefer to be somewhere else. And then, Kevin, good question. Will the jury be sequestered? Per se, I don't know. Maybe they will, but then that just makes even more of a hardship, right? Because the jury is put out and not able to talk to their family. I think back to the OJ case. I mean, can you imagine 11 months? 11 months, damn near a year. I'm not going home, not going anywhere, being sequestered. I mean, it's just a oof. All right, Brenda McCullum, you would say anything to not be picked. Yeah, doxing and the fear of being harmed or even killed. Yeah, that is a legitimate question. Ricky James, when will someone interview Eric Hunley? I want to see you answer questions in real time for once. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I've done that on the podcast before. I had a, if you will, a guest interviewer, and that was interesting. Kevin Persinger, would AI provide an impartial jury? That's interesting. In theory, yes, but the fact is that even AI is programmed by humans. So garbage in, garbage out. I can't help but think of, when Microsoft created the bots and they had to eventually shut it down because it became Hitler, it would be a pretty difficult situation. Hey, John Paxton. Kevin Linville, your mom was on the Black Panthers case in Cali. And you did see her for days or you did not see her for days? That's interesting. Okay, so that is my first one. I just want to put it out there because I feel like a lot of us aren't thinking about it. We're just, like looking at this case. Oh, what's going to happen? Who are they going to pick? What's going on? And the idea of sitting in the jury or doing the job, I do not, I would not want to do that. I did actually get called in for a jury duty, or I was called into a jury, seated on a jury. And that was when the hurricane was coming through here a couple years ago. And it was crazy because we didn't know what was going to happen. And they finally just said, and they shut down the court and they sent us home and they said, don't bother coming back. So it was a very weird situation being on the jury, but then the whole jury just being excused. And well, I didn't actually have to serve in the end. Turn off notifications. Sorry about that. Next item. Now, I put out a request, for what folks might want to talk about, and I'm going to share my screen, and I want to go into locals. You guys have just been amazing about putting stuff in locals. If I can find it, there we go. And first off, I want to talk about this post that I did right here, which is all about, what scares you. And this picture I actually used for a slide presentation that I did for PodFest. Last year at this time, I was at PodFest. It was sort of like the last physical event. And I got to see all kinds of other podcasters in person. And then boom, the world stopped right after. I mean, I literally flew home March 6th and we were locking down all over the country. But one of my biggest fears doing this type of thing, and I want to be open and put it out there. I'm obviously not speaking great. I'm stumbling on my words, things of that sort. This makes me nervous. I am very much into a comfort zone of I like to interview people. I like to talk to them and, get their story and have a back and forth. And that could be sort of seen as a crutch. I, freely admit, but it is very, very nerve-wracking to me. I should do it more, and hopefully you all will give me feedback whether you do like this or don't, because you very well can say, yeah, Eric, get a guest. Please get a guest, because it's so much more entertaining. But I asked all of you to give feedback on what scares you. And I really, I want to build this as a community, and I really deeply appreciate you guys getting back. That's why I try to make it a point of answering comments or doing something. I did not answer them because I wanted to actually answer them live, if you will, or talk through them, because I want to share that moment and give you the attention. And this is my local site. I've been plugging locals pretty hard lately, I freely admit, and that is because it has been really good to me, and I like the fact that I'm not getting censored on it. Yes, I was influenced by, my friends Viva Fry and Barnes and others, but I really do like it. And I, as a matter of fact, have a guest coming up that I'll be talking about later that's directly involved with this. But we'll start off here with Helen Stone. Spiders scare me. LOL. So, okay, I'm sorry the spiders scare you. I would ask what you do about it, but I have a feeling that you probably just sick Gavin on them and move on. I'm not sure, but that would be my guess. Um, if I'm mutilating the name, I apologize. Rafanalator is what I'm guessing. And it's running into people from high school and college. I was a social retard back then, but learned a lot from actually working with people. And I physically cringe when I remember the dumb stuff I did. It's so bad I don't use Facebook or LinkedIn. I just get people's numbers and text them. That's fascinating. And what's interesting is I'd be interested in when you actually went to high school and college. Like, I went to high school in the 80s. And yes, I'm aging myself, but one great benefit of being all the way through high school before the internet really caught on, and by internet, I'm going to say World Wide Web, because internet obviously was invented in like 1967 or 69. I can't remember which, by DARPA, but then it was the web that made a difference. And the web didn't really come to prominence until the 90s. And like 95 was starting to do more and more and more on the web. Well, I have the luxury that I lived a life and I did all kinds of amazingly stupid things that are not on the web. They're not out there. As a matter of fact, growing up, there's a Norm Macdonald joke about how there's one picture of his grandfather is holding a pig, and that's it. Whereas now, kids who are going to become grandfathers will be like, would you like my 2 million photographs of my entire life? It's a weird situation. I only have a handful of photographs throughout my life growing up, because I never really was into that. Let's see. In Chicago replied that I've been there too. I joined Facebook in 2010 and connected with as many people as possible. I made a concerted effort to make amends with every person I could, admitting all my failures and faux pas. Wow, that had to be a uncomfortable situation. And Chicago also says that being destitute in my retirement years, that's that's a legitimate fear for sure. Kath C, being dependent on anyone, that way you won't be disappointed in people when they fail to deliver on commitments. Yeah, that's very thoughtful. Sandy Paws, my mom used to tell me as a child that the cricket sound was mommy crickets singing baby crickets to sleep. Reality was devastating. Yeah, that's true. As far as fears, I suppose my biggest is to find out that I've spent my life working on something that doesn't matter. Second would be placing deep trust in the wrong people. I would actually argue that's pretty similar to the first. And then Ziggy Shrugs, I hope you did make it tonight. I know you were there last night. By the way, if you guys did not get a chance to see News with Booze with Allison and I last night, I really encourage you to check it out. There's a couple surprises that came up, and it was very, very fun. And honestly, I love that show. Somebody asked a question about it, so I could talk about it more, but I want to plug it early because I feel deeply honored to have a friend like Allison and the ability to put together a show like that, which I just really look forward to it. It is so much fun. And I think over time it's going to grow to be something really great with all of you. It'll be just fantastic. Let me see. Ziggy's saying that she's scared of not being needed. I can see that. She was given up for adoption at birth and was passed around foster homes until almost 5 years old. Wow. And after she found her birth mom, good God, this is some hard reading. If abortion had been legal, she wouldn't be there. That is very hard. Oh my God. She was unable to develop a parental attachment with her adopted mom, and that's why she doesn't feel like she fits in or has difficulty feeling wanted. Yeah, I think you have every reason to worry about that, and that is terrible. I'm sure, just from what I've seen, though, that you have proven yourself to be wanted now by many around you. You seem to be an amazing person, and I really do appreciate you. And Kevin Linville is also adopted. It's a good company. Cave spelunking freaks Kevin Kevlin. I always get that thrown off. He's a large frame guy. It was not made to fit in tight spaces, but you've crawled around in tunnels and under houses. That doesn't bug you. I can relate to that. It's a really interesting story. I went with my wife to Endless Caverns here in Virginia, and it was actually for sale. Like, you could actually buy the caverns, buy a cave. Hey, I want to buy something. How about a cave that's miles long inside? And what was so crazy about it was that it was kind of a real low budget operation. And they had the green throw rugs. They're kind of like astroturfy. They're green. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're all weather. People have them for indoor, outdoor uh, porches, things like that. And they had them laying out at different points throughout the cave as you're walking through. And literally, we were by ourselves with the tour guide, and we were turning the lights on and off when we were going along. And I will tell you something, that cave is dark. Oh my Christ, that is a dark, dark cave. You do not realize. So it is quite amazing to see how, or not see, if you will, how dark that place was. It was very, very frightening. Ellie16, you're so kind, Eric. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I look forward to watching more of your shows. The sound of the cricket chirping brings back a funny memory. You never forget the night long after her husband and she were married. They'd hear that sound, the lone cricket sound coming from their bedroom. I'll never forget my husband ripping everything out of the closet looking for the cricket, which he never found. Good times. Yeah, that's a big fear. Losing those you love. Absolutely. And I had to, I think I did a parenthetical on that, but yes, I appreciate intellectually the lone cricket, but if it's at the wrong time of the night, then yeah, I'd probably want to shred the closet and kill the stupid cricket too. So, I'm not always super nice. Eva, great to see you, Eva. We don't come to your channel only because you're a guest. We come to your channel because of you. Wow, thank you. Having interesting guests is just a bonus. So I think your fear is unfounded. Well, I do appreciate that. Um, well, thank you. You'll be on the AMA and hopes nobody did take me up on it. And I'm happy to give my opinions and thoughts. I really will continue to share that here. And there's also a live chat here on locals, and I've done it a couple times, once as a sample and another short one. I'm not completely comfortable with the interface, but I will try doing it again. But we'll go into that. Now I have questions on the live stream itself. I want to look at the chat for a minute though and see if we can catch up here. And Helen is mentioning definitely Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan are coming up. I'm going to talk about them. I don't know if I can add a lot. There's some, questions on that. Let's see. What is my favorite type of guest? That's a really interesting question, Zoe. My favorite type of guest is anyone who keeps me present. And by that, it means it could be just I'm so fascinated by their story. Like Jack Barsky comes to mind quite a lot. He lived such an alternate life than I did, and is such an amazing person. But his story's riveting, and I can picture myself being born in the wrong place and becoming a spy and doing whatever. But then I love, for example, doing the show with Allison. And obviously, I'm not bearing the headline, but you guys know that I'm a huge fan and friend of Viva Fry or David Fryhite, and I love Barnes and these guys. I just cannot heap enough praise. I almost could do like sidekick of Viva Fry show and be quite delighted. I just love hanging out. I love talking. So I love either when I'm really challenged and I'm really learning, or I'm just having fun and I'm really riffing. And if I can do something in the middle, wow, that's amazing. Next one. What is my optimal number of guests? Honestly, I kind of I love doing the panels, but it depends on who it is. I would say that 4 can be too many. And it's just that there's a lot of voices, and that would be me and 4, which is 5 total. That's tough. I've had some good ones, and having the whole behavior panel on works really well. And because they work together all the time, they're great at handing off one to the other, to the other, to the other. So that's not as intense as it can be. Sometimes having 3 can be too much, depending. Different guests have different presence, if you will. So some guests have a stronger personality, and they speak more, or they're more outgoing, they give more, and then there's other guests who don't, and it could be a challenge to try to get that balance. And that challenge should be either one guest is completely overshadowed, and I feel bad for that, or it could be a guest. 2 guests can have too much personality, and there's this kind of a push at each other. So it's hard to say, but the optimum may be 3 or 4, um, including me. So me plus 2 or me plus 3 is probably a good number. I really do love having the multiple voices. That's something that I found over time. I feel like is kind of an interesting formula with me on that. Let me see. How did I get started in this business? I wouldn't really call this a business because I don't make a living. I have a day job. I need that. I went to I created a podcast. It took me 10 years to actually start the podcast. And the podcast was created because I wanted the opportunity to talk to all these cool people that I read and things of that sort. So I just over time have gotten into it. My MBTI assessment, I've not taken the full one. I do these tests that are here. I don't have any pulled up right now, but if you look at the channel, let me see if I can find it here. Okay, I tested as ISFP-A according to 16 personalities, and I forget the other one. I just did the big 5 recently, and it was essentially, I don't know the correct term, but it's like I'm a lazy drifter. I don't know how it worked out, but it's like, okay, just kind of, it was saying that I was sort of an amiable traveler, not too learned, just kind of, hey, what's up, brother? Like, okay, cool, no problem. Let's see. Ziggy saying, have I ever heard of the Max Porter mystery books? I have not heard of that. I'm interesting. Okay. I'm not familiar with. I'll have to ask my wife. She's a library director, so odds are she's actually heard of that. Let's see. Skipping around. Celine. Let's see. Hello, long time no see. What do you think about the movement of emotionalism and personal truth? Ugh. Are we moving away from facts and moving towards alternative facts? Boy, that's a hard. I guess I'm going to have to step into the whole concept of the truth and say that I'm triggered by that. I do not, the term my truth or their truth or anything like that really kind of grates on my nerves. I don't believe in my truth. I have my opinion. I have my learned experience and my interpretation, but I'm not going to elevate my thoughts to be the truth. That's just what I've seen and what I think. And I'm often wrong. And I'd like to think that I can stand up and say that I am wrong. So the whole truth thing is like his truth, her truth, their truth. How about the truth? It's annoying. And I and maybe it's a generational thing. I feel like we need to spend a little less time worrying about our feelings, and that's where we're going to in this too, I believe. And that actually gets to the Harry and Meghan interview. I'm going to be talking about that, and I don't know, it might annoy some people, but I think that we spend a lot of time talking about how our feelings are more important than, let's say, what is actually a fact on the ground. And I'm not trying to do the Ben Shapiro facts don't care about your feelings. I know that it can be a very prickish thing, but facts are relevant. And I don't feel like I can improve as a person unless I can acknowledge a fact and try to work toward that fact or accept that I could be incorrect in my facts and maybe just put my feelings on the back burner because maybe my feelings aren't quite as important. Maybe they're not necessarily going to help anything, or maybe I could just pause for a minute and as I learn things, my feelings can be assuaged a little bit and I can just move on. I don't know if that answers it, but that's kind of where I stand. Who would be my ultimate interview? Um, that's a really interesting question. I Two of the interviews that I really, really want to get on are who I jokingly call the two Bobs, and that's Robert Cialdini and Robert Greene. Both of these guys are preeminent in terms of self development, persuasion, influence. Robert Greene did 48 Laws of Power. Robert Cialdini did influence and persuasion, and these guys are just giants to me. I would love to have them, but I also have to confess that there is a part of me that I'm shifting away from always wanting a big name per se. If I can get something that's really interesting or someone who's really interesting and maybe another angle, that really excites me too. And as an example, Jordan Peterson is, one of the biggest names on the planet right now, and he's gone through a lot of personal things and people either love him or they hate him. And at one point I would be like, "Oh my god, I can get Jordan Peterson." But lately I really want to get his daughter on. And that might sound like an odd thought pattern, but I'm just sort of interested in her story and how it is to live around him. And I also there's a defensive quality to me. I feel like she was really bullied by the Sunday Times when they did that hit piece on Jordan Peterson. I thought they were even worse on Michaela Peterson, and I really I want to hear her story. I think that's very interesting, and sometimes the person who's next to the famous person really has a lot to offer and a lot to say. And I like to think that I'm maybe at a slightly different angle and I can learn from that, or I can get something really, truly deep and fascinating out of that. I have reached out to her hoping to, get her on. I've never heard anything back, nothing, which I don't expect. I'm kind of like, she just had a hit piece by a respectable publication. Does she want to talk to some hack on YouTube? Oh, probably not. But I'd love to have her on sometime. So in many ways, that might be an amazing ultimate interview. Let's see, who is my favorite guest or guest that I've had on the show? That's like picking my favorite child, and I have to cop out. No, I don't know. I think you guys know. I probably Viva Fry. I mean, he's such a good friend, so generous. He's been wonderful to me. I just love having him on. And then, Allison, but she's kind of a co-host now. So I love having her on, and that's just really, really, really amazing to me. So let's see, that got through the first pack of questions. Are you guys bored out of your mind yet? Let me see. Okay, we got all these. So I'm going to jump again on locals to the questions here eventually. Okay, I already did it. This is really annoying. This is a fine interface. It's not their problem. It was my fault. Eeks. All right. Buffalo 17 wants me to talk about the Smith-Mundt Act and its repeal. Okay. I did look this up. I have to confess that really I don't see that much going on with it. I reached out to Barnes about it to see, what he had to say, and I'm going to post a link inside of the live chat here. He sent me a article about it, and what I've seen about this act is essentially it was not officially repealed; it was modified, and there could be potentially propaganda being put forth from the government to the people, and there's the consequence of state-run propaganda on its citizens. At this point, I don't want to just downplay it. I'm not finding where it has become a huge problem. I'm not saying that it won't be, but at this point, I really don't know. I haven't found it yet to where it's really becoming a giant issue. And honestly, I think a lot of the propaganda was already happening, especially when there's a friendly press, and whichever party is, there are friendly people, and the government can spin out propaganda through leaks and other mechanisms that are already existing. And I don't know, maybe it's even possible that having it as direct propaganda to the people, maybe that's even more effective, because if you think it's illegal and they can't do it, then you think, oh, well, they can't, be lying as much as they are. Well, they're always lying. And now it's just like, okay, well, we are acknowledging that everybody is lying through their teeth. And perhaps that's good. Really, let's get it out in the open. Have everybody lying. Courtney Grace wants to hear my thoughts on John Ronson's So You Have Been Publicly Shamed. Love it. Fantastic book. I've read that book. I've also read The Psychopath Test, which was good, but it was not as good. So You've Been Publicly Shamed is a phenomenal book. It is right in the zeitgeist, perfectly on time. I think it should be required reading for everyone who's involved or very interested in reacting to public scandal and social media and different personalities, because it's, if you will, a cautionary tale. I mean, I forgot her name, but you make a bad joke, you get on a plane, your whole life is torn apart. it's really easy to look at people in this moment, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm, such a generous person, blah 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 blah. I feel kind of guilty lately because the Britney Spears conservatorship stuff in 2008. Now, I never listened to her music. I'm kind of aged out of it, but there's probably a little part of me that was like, oh, look at this weirdo girl, freak. What's wrong with her? Shaving her head, da 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 da. And I guess, I probably got a little bit of amusement out of it, 12 years ago. And then looking back at it, I'm like, that's kind of shameful, isn't it? I mean, she's still under conservatorship 12 years later from her family. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that, yeah, maybe some checks are needed. I'm I have to keep stepping back and reevaluating myself and what I say and do, because I can be just as bad as anyone. Let's see. Here we go. Can I ask the behavior panel to do a breakdown of Harry and Meghan's Oprah interview? And what do I do to keep that cat hair manageable? Oh God, you can't keep it manageable. That's an easy answer. You vacuum where you can and you just suck it up. I mean, my wife and I, we determined that we ingest 2 to 3 pounds of cat fur in a year on average. So if you pump our stomachs, our lungs, part of it is laced with cat fur, most likely. You can't completely get rid of it. So you have to either love them or not have them. It's a challenge. Now, the Meghan and Harry thing. First off, the behavior panel. The behavior panel has done a breakdown on Meghan and Harry's interview with Oprah. It has been copyright claimed by Viacom CBS, and they are in dispute trying to get it to be allowed. And to their credit, the behavior panel, they used the video. They didn't do any tricks. People will do tricks on YouTube, like changing the gamma or sound or different things, so that way the algorithm doesn't pick it up. They're trying to be open and honest about it and hopefully work out a fair use agreement. So they're going through the process. Unfortunately, that means that we have to wait. And that really sucks for me because I'm not qualified to do a body language reading or anything on Meghan or Harry. I have my opinions and I have my observations, and I'll share some of that with you. But please know that I am not at all qualified. Now, what are my thoughts on this? I'm troubled by statements that were made by Meghan, most of all. And I believe Harry backed up some of these, but I do feel like that interview may be a slightly agenda driven. Now, I can't tell you if she's lying or not lying at different points with absolute confidence, because I'm not qualified to do the body language reading. I think that there are some tells that trouble me, that they don't seem quite right. But there are just some general facts that I have found, or at least I believe they to be they are facts. And one of these would be the claim about the racism. And this really worries me, and maybe I'm overly sensitive about it, but the problem is I feel like if you're looking for racism, you're going to find it. And if you're looking for no racism, you're going to find none. Now, I'm not going to say there is no racism there, but I do think that it's very, very much a focus on our mind. We open this talking about the Chauvin trial, and there's racism questions and police brutality and other things of that sort. So I think it's troublesome when race comes up just almost on the tip of the tongue. And if we're being honest, before I watched a minute of that interview, And you guys can, set me straight on this, because I do not want to be incorrect, but before I watched a single minute of that interview, I knew racism was going to come up. And that's a problem. I shouldn't just go automatically in my head and go, yeah, well, racism will come up. Well, it did. So there were two claims of racism. One of them was hearsay. And it was hearsay on hearsay, because it was Meghan saying that Harry heard, and they did not identify who did it. So that kind of laid a stain, if you will, on everybody. So it's like there were several people involved, and then you say that somebody makes a comment that you're concerned about color or something like that. Well, then now that just goes to everybody's head, and everybody's playing the game. Who's the racist? Where's the racist? Who's that? And by them not specifying who this was, then now it could be all of them. Now, apparently it's not the Queen, and it's not Prince Philip. I guess that got leaked out later, that on the side that Oprah was told that it was not those two. So it could only be the future king, or the other or the future king, or maybe their spouse, but it's very small number, and it was carelessly painted on somebody. I also didn't get a vibe of what the exact quote was, how it was said, what the conditions were, or anything else. I'm not going to deny that nothing was said. It very well may have been. Harry seemed to concur with her statement that it was said. So I can't go any further on that. I think it was clumsy and was kind of tough. But this one, the other one, is a big deal. And that was whether Prince Harry would have a title of prince. I'm sorry, not Prince Harry. If Archie was going to be a prince, titled prince, or not, and whether he was going to have protection. Now, very quickly on the protection, I don't understand the protection angle. If Prince Harry's under protection and Meghan was under protection or not protection, or I guess they're paying for their own protection now, then one would think that that protection would sort of look after the children too. Now, I don't know if this is talking about when he's an adult. I don't know, but at that point, they were still working with the royal family, as far as I know. And I don't know. I feel like there'll probably be some kind of protection there. Don't know. However, the title, the claim was made that she felt that it was concerns about the race that was holding the title. Now, this is something that we can focus on, because it is absolutely untrue. There was a rule or protocol established in 1917. Now, I'm pulling this up from Newsweek, okay, because in general, and it really shouldn't be this way, I do feel like there's kind of a left and right bend on this a little bit, just simply because the racism angle or whatever else. So Newsweek is definitely not a publication that is going to be, I feel, a flamethrower saying bad, mad Meghan or anything else. I feel like they're probably sympathetic. And bottom line, all this, and I'll go through it, but the bottom line ruling is this: it is true. Archie is not a prince because of that 1917 written order that only children and grandchildren in the direct line of succession would receive the royal titles. Now, according to this, when Prince Charles becomes king, and he is to become king. I mean, I know I read tabloids all the time. They're going to skip him and all that. It's like, no, unless he dies or there's something really weird, he's going to be king. And when he becomes king, Archie will be a prince. But he doesn't qualify. And there was another speculation talking about rules that were rewritten that the Queen, because I guess other ones were not going to be. I think that William's children actually were not going to be prince either, but the rule got rewritten to go ahead and cover them. This has not happened at this point. So that could be the argument. I don't know. But the truth is, he didn't qualify. The only children who are descendants, who are princes, are Williams. So we are talking about a fact that does not match a feeling, if you will. And I know I sound like Shapiro on that, but this is a big deal. And this goes into the whole Piers Morgan getting fired, quitting, somehow leaving. He went into a dispute about that. And I think that he was correct in saying that this is a fact that was wrong. And somebody else said, well, that doesn't matter. That's the lived experience. I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he's like the weather person on that show that Piers used to be on. Well, I'm going to disagree that a fact is very, very relevant to a situation. There are other facts too that bother me that have come up. And again, these are provable things, and that's why I want to bring them up. Meghan Markle made a specific point of talking about her half sister, Samantha Markle, and she made very specific claims that her half sister wrote a book and didn't know her at all. Samantha Markle has been able to produce photographs of them together, throughout life. Now, I guess you could argue that no, she didn't really know her. They didn't spend a lot of time together. But then she said another one saying that the sister did not become a Markle until Meghan met Harry. Well, that's not true. And Samantha Markle actually produced the application to have the last name in 97. And she has a record of her college diploma of her name, Samantha M. Markle. So this is a distinct, provable fact. Why did she go against and not, not go along with that fact? Well, why were we going against that? There's other stuff, and I'm kind of going away in terms of importance, if you will, but these are all here. Huge core entry, but why was Meghan Markle accused of plagiarism? There are a lot of things written by Meghan Markle that are very similar to other works. Now, in fairness, when I read them, I could see that there were similarities, but I will also say that they were not word for word plagiarisms. They could be influenced or whatever. So people are claiming that she, copied the items and then changed to work, to make it seem new, but it's still a plagiarism. I'm not going to go that far. And I'm not even going to make that claim. I'm saying that the claim is out there. So those are my feelings on the interview itself. If I'm just trying to go with a straight fact-based situation, I feel like she was potentially deceptive, that there are facts that prove that she was at least not being forthright with certain information. And if she's not forthright with pretty major information, that makes everything she said suspect. Now I'm going to go to the chat and see how bad you guys are beating me up on this. But I am definitely curious because I do want to be as fair as possible. And Scott Wade says Prince Andrew's children got titles. Yes, they were grandchildren, not great grandchildren. Let me see. You have to bear with me while I scroll up and down. Wow. Okay, you guys have been talking, and I apologize for missing this. I know I've been rambling for a while. We're talking about Joe Rogan. Okay. Huh. Okay, well, Here we go. I'm gonna go a little bit earlier, and then we'll catch right up onto it. Somebody said something here. Honestly, more so than Michaela, but Jordan Peterson's wife, Tammy, would be interesting to talk to. I agree. She'd be very interesting as well. I know almost nothing about her. Not sure what. Have to look it up. Derek Holman. No. All right. So, what is the feeling on Meghan and crew? Okay, John Paxton. Thank you. I'm glad that my guests have been a positive influence over the past year. And yes, oh, British hat. I thought you were Scottish. You know what? You want to get a laugh, John Paxton? I did not understand the difference between English and British. I just thought they were synonymous at one point, and I came to learn that no, English is English in England. British can include Northern Ireland and Scotland. So I'm always learning, and that's why I want to be open. That I don't know a lot of stuff. APRD, Meghan is not very popular in Poland. Not like she cares, but hey, we do not see her as a kind, honest human being. Okay. Yep. John Paxton, Scotland is less impressed by royals than other parts of the UK. Yes, I'm quite sure. Whiskey Straight Out. Have I monetized on locals? Yes, I have. I'm happy to say, and it's been growing nicely. Tell a friend, please. It is really, really nice to have the opportunity to have somewhere that I can grow and actually, potentially get a little bit. DK, how did I go from being a tech guy to doing a show or podcast with so many different guests? I read, when you leave work or whatever, I just was very interested in reading different books and learning about different things. I guess I'm a bit a curious mind. And this is a good question. How did I get early guests to do the show before I became known for it? Well, early on, I was able to get a couple decent guests because of interactions like in a Facebook group that had a bit of a reputation, and I was always talking and communicating. The group was Mixed Middle Arts, and my first guest was actually Hunter Motts. And I've talked about that history before, but essentially, I participate a lot in the group and kind of had a Facebook friendship, if you will, with Hunter. He came on. Daniele Bolelli of History on Fire, and he's been on Rogan a bunch of times, was a regular there, and I got to know him some. He came on. So, and when you have a couple who give you a chance, and if you really, really work hard at it, you'll get a reputation, and then other people start to say, oh, okay. And then they'll come on, and then it sort of just cycles in itself. You can sort of name drop. Kevin Linville, being honest here, I had no idea she was black. Yes, Meghan Markle is not obviously black. She looked more black when she was younger. I don't know. I'm not great on this. Derek Holman, Meghan not well disposed towards her. It was pretty clear that she joined the family with no intention of doing her duties. I don't know. That's a hard one because I don't want to mind read. She may have joined the royal family assuming that she was going to be a princess and do everything that everybody did. I really don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. Ziggy Shrug, would anyone know if she had black heritage if they didn't tell everyone, promote and highlight it? That's a good question, and I'd have to dig into it further, but I believe a lot of her relatives from who are the black side of the family, however that breaks down, have said that she doesn't really talk to them very much or is not very close. From my understanding, she's estranged from almost her whole family except perhaps her mother. So it's an interesting situation. John Paxton, DK are both wondering why do Americans care about royalty so much? I don't know. we made a big deal out of getting rid of it, and then we sort of missed it. Maybe we, too many stories. Madeline Swan, Archie is not entitled to be a prince. I agree. Paylin, they were kicked out of the royals, lost all titles. Yes. But Archie being a prince is not a royal protocol. No, same with protection. Yeah, I'm not sure on that. And then Madeline Swan, I think this really sums it up. That they're doing royal duties or they're not doing royal duties. It's sort of like if you're working at a job, you get your benefits. If you leave the job, you don't have those benefits. So definitely interesting. Derek Holman went to Toronto, was amazed that the shops are closed for the Queen's birthday. Yeah, I don't quite get the Commonwealth countries. It's very interesting to me. They're independent, but yet, I don't know. Very, very interesting. Let's see. Oh, God. All right, Boger 414. Unless they come up with that pesky DNA test for Harry before Charles becomes king. Yes, there is that rumor about that. Okay, so Whiskey, you agree with me. Spot on with Archie. Shame that the MSM can't or won't do the same research. I know, don't want to report. Yeah, it's very possible. I don't know. I think, again, if you want to find racism, you'll find it. If you want to find the facts, you can find those too. It's not always the same. I don't quite understand that. So they don't run like Zamunda. The Queen Prince can't just change the rule. Okay. On the other hand, having to defend Morgan sticks in my throat a bit. Pierce. Oh, not everybody. Yeah, a lot of people don't care for Piers Morgan. It's very funny. Strange Bedfellow, especially a lot of conservatives hate him, and Ben Shapiro had that run in with him years ago. Yeah, it's interesting. And yes, Piers Morgan did walk up the set in the middle of a discussion about Archie and Meghan. That was with the weather person. They kind of got into it. I think he did come back later or something, but either way, he left the show the same day. All right. John Paxton says, LOL, Piers is a bastard like that. Sometimes he's right. Fair enough. And how are we doing? Wow. I hate it when this scrolls. Okay. Somebody asked a good question. Okay, Ziggy. I do have a Facebook group for Unstructured. I've had it for a long time, but honestly, I don't really do anything in there. And there's a couple people who have been in it for a really long time, and it's almost more their group than mine. I've thought about just changing the name or something. I encourage anybody to get in there, but I really don't do much in there. I'm definitely much more focused on locals at this point. I may even change the Unstructured group. I'm not sure. That's a group that just sort of got away from me. So let me see. Good question. Are Scots going for independence again with the Brexit? I have no idea. I'm not even qualified. And Scott Wade asks, yes, I believe that when Charles is king, he would qualify for the title, but maybe not now that they've left. I don't know the situation. It's a weird one. I don't know the really how that breaks down. Do we know how or if they're happy? I don't really know. Somebody asked, are these the questions that I thought I'd be getting? Yeah, probably. I kind of knew the Prince, the Harry stuff would be there. Laria, a better question would be why Americans are obsessed with celebrity for celebrity's sake, or even more so, um, how do we have the Kim Kardashians? The ones who we just kind of create into being a celebrity. Like, you almost can understand a movie star or something, but it's odd to see just somebody who becomes an influencer. Period. I would actually argue AOC is kind of like that, but I probably annoy some people. I apologize. All right, so let's see. Oh, thank you, Whiskey. Figured out how to do it. Signed up to support me on locals. I do appreciate that, and I have memberships on YouTube too. But I really want to push locals, and I want to talk about that again for a minute because I'm pushing locals more because I want to hear from you. On YouTube, I can, post little videos and make comments and maybe put up a meme or two, but everything has to be generated from me. And you all have to just sit there and wait around for me to actually post something to comment against it. I hate that. That's not a community. I want to be a part of a community with all of you because I really want to hear from you. I love the idea of when I go and I look and I see somebody who's got a funny meme going on, and there's some really cool stuff in here. Let me go ahead and scroll down a little bit because some of this stuff cracks me up or aggravates me. Like, I'm not going to get into Jesus being a racist, but yeah, Pepe Le Pew, somebody's Babylon Bee. This one I think is pretty funny, or sad actually. Gavin Stone he was put in Facebook jail for posting this meme, but that's an interesting meme. And if he posted the meme here, he wouldn't be in Facebook jail. So I really do appreciate all of you guys. Like, oh, here's a classic retirement plan. Move to Mexico, give up citizenship, come back illegally, set for life. These are all really cool. And it doesn't just have to be that. I'm very, interested in articles and thoughts. I believe there's somebody who's put up a poll. I want to hear from you. And that is why I've, focused so much more on locals, is because you guys are super, 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 super important and enrich me and this environment. I'm so thankful to, have you. So by locals, you can post, you can come up with things, and gives me an opportunity to learn because I always really want to learn. That's why I do the show. It's really, really, fascinating to talk to all the different people. And I do love looking at the chat. I don't always get to all the questions during episodes and things like that, but it very much influences me in which way I'm going, or am I on the right track, or am I not on the right track? It's definitely helpful. People are talking about, yeah, that's true. Piers Morgan's whole career is based on being contrary, like Rush Limbaugh. Sure. Sadly, yeah, drawing controversy is a great way to get there. Somebody brought up, yeah, isn't the interview a distraction for missing Biden speeches? Yeah, maybe. Palin, that's an interesting point, but Biden got elected from a basement. Biden wasn't out there giving speeches. He didn't have to. And I don't know why people would think, since he's already won, he's in the position, why would he now? Who cares? He doesn't have to. And odd to see a Tim Hunley become an influencer. Who is Tim Hunley? Okay, there's probably inside joke there. I have no idea. That's very, very, very interesting. Let's see. Hey, Eric, you're doing a super job in interviews. Very interesting, and allowing the guests to speak comfortably. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Gavin was out within 15 minutes. Luckily, he doesn't accept that type of thing and reversed it for the 5th time in a row in 3 months. God. Yes, I hope to see you on locals. And guys, if you don't mind, like, when Gavin's post up things like that, please comment on them. I mean, there's nothing more frustrating than when you post a meme and it's crickets. The theme of the episode. All right, so back to my post here. Ziggy questions: what do you think is the biggest thing I have learned between first starting my podcast, transitioning to video, and now with a regular content show? The biggest thing I've learned? Wow. Well, okay. I would say it's the biggest thing I've learned is that it's about you. And by you, I mean the audience. And I know that sounds like, oh God, here we go. It's all about you. But that's the truth. When I started to do the show as a podcast, my focus was really a little bit on kissing the guest's ass and trying to look cool to a guest. And then, that was all about kind of feeding me and my ego, I would say, because maybe I could rise to the same level as the guest. And it's not about that. And, fortunately, it didn't take too long for me to realize that no, nobody gives a damn about the guests or me. I have to really work to earn your time. And so the order now is first it's you, second it's the guest, and then I'm somewhere in like fourth or fifth place because I don't even want to put myself in that same spectrum as other parts of it, because if I don't have you here, I don't have a show. And if I don't have the guests, well, I may still have a show. Well, we'll see if you guys like this, but it's an emptier show. So I don't really matter beyond trying to work hard or do my part. It's not about me. And that is something I would say the biggest thing I learned is just to laser focus on the guest. And occasionally I'll ask for some indulgence from you. Like I had Scott Brick on just this past week, and I kind of am asking you to trust me that this is a really good guest. This is really interesting. Scott Brick is probably the top audiobook narrator in the world in terms of status and stature. And yeah, I'm a bit of a fan and I really wanted him on, but I thought that, well, he's not necessarily in behavior. He's not necessarily a lawyer, not necessarily political, or at least I don't think he's political like half the people here would want him to be. But he's an amazing person. And I really enjoyed doing the interview and learning about the craft and the art and how the audiobook narration goes. So I will, hopefully you'll be okay with me indulging myself a little bit there too. And trust that I am trying to still bring good content. That was a very interesting guest. And I do hope you guys got a chance to check it out. It won't be as big as, many other episodes, but really, really fascinating. And many guys read over 1,000 books. I mean, think about it. He's narrated over 1,000 books. Many of us don't get to 1,000 books reading through time and everything else. That's really, really, really fascinating and amazing to me. Let's see. There was more questions in this whole thing. Okay. Now with a regular content show, News with Booze. What's interesting about that is I always wanted to have a regular content show, but what was I going to do? I know that sounds silly, but I feel like I can't just put something out there just to have something out there. I can't force things. And with Allison, that made itself. I feel like you have to kind of put yourself in an environment or situation where things can happen naturally or comfortably. And I feel like it did happen with her. And the reason why is because I had her on, but then we were talking beforehand, before the show, fine. back and forth, just trading philosophies. And finally, we got on pretty well. And then after the interview, our relationship did not end. We've been texting almost every day since I had her on. I mean, we might miss a day here or there, but we're just texting all the time, back and forth. And we're very, very fascinated about the same subjects. We, both care about our channel. We both care about the news. We care about the press. We care about the truth. We care about free speech. And so she's always like, did you see this? And I'm like, did you see that? And it's like, well, wait a minute. Why don't we do this together? Because we're already doing it. And I think that is why it works. And I'm glad that I didn't try to do anything beforehand. Obviously, I mentioned David Viva Fry. I would love to be doing a show with him all the time, but it would be forcing things. He's already got a great show with Barnes. He doesn't have the time to necessarily do this type of thing. And I'm not a lawyer. He is a lawyer. So there's some differences. Now, I'm not a journalist. Allison is, but I feel like there's a balance there. There is a genuine chemistry between us, personality-wise, rhythm-wise, thought-wise, and most of all, I have the highest regard for her. And I think that, we really, really respect each other a great deal. Okay, Triple Crown wants to know which guests I would most like to interview. There's a lot of them out there, and I am asking a lot of them. Some I honestly don't reach out to necessarily right away. It is being realistic. I mentioned Jordan Peterson before. I have reached out to Gad Sad. He's turned me down in the past. He didn't answer the most recent time. Jordan's a level too high. I will say I can announce, and actually I saw an email fly in. Let me see. Oh, yes. I can announce now that Thursday, March 25th, I will have Dave Rubin on the show. So 2 weeks from today, Dave Rubin is going to be a guest. I just got it locked in. We kind of went back and forth on it. So that is going to be really, really an awesome, awesome episode. And the key thing about Dave Rubin too is while he's a big guest, I've known about and kind of tangentially followed Dave Rubin since about 2014, 2015. So I know about his whole journey, and reading his book is sort of funny because I'm like, well, okay, well, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Because I saw this going in real time. And to give you a little perspective on it, in I think it was 2018, I interviewed Austin Peterson. And remember, Austin Peterson was the runner-up Libertarian presidential candidate. I've also interviewed John McAfee. I did him earlier this year. So I have a through line, knowing a bit about the libertarian politics and things like that. Now, I call myself a small L libertarian, or I even registered lazylib.com at one point for lazy libertarian, because I do not believe in going all the way to the crazy anarchist deal. That's getting ridiculous. But Dave Rubin, kind of a big deal. I'm really happy on that. I've got another sort of big guest coming on, and this one's going to be awkward. And, I want to be fully open with you guys on that. I don't know when it's going to happen, because the guest, we got to settle it down or settle it out, but she has agreed to do it. We just haven't got the date and things worked out. And that is Nikki Klein. And Nikki Klein was on Battlestar Galactica, and Nikki Klein is involved with NXIVM, the organization who I have called a cult, and I pretty much consider it to be a cult, but I, cannot, say that with all certainty or whatever. And I have talked about Nikki Klein. I did a video criticizing Scott Adams that spawned out of his interview with Nikki Klein. And I also discussed Nikki Klein on a live stream with Viva and Barnes and Scott Rouse. she's not very happy with how we discussed her. And some of the interview with her will most likely be her letting me know how we were not necessarily kind to her and she was not able to represent herself. So we were talking about her without her being there. And I definitely wanted to put out the opportunity. So she will be coming on the show, probably to tell me I was kind of a dick, excuse my language. And also, though, she has evidence, she claims, of prosecutorial misconduct. So I will probably have her on with Robert Barnes. So that way we have a legal expert on with her. And I probably will make this a t-shirt, but I have to say that I do believe in my heart that two things can be true at the same time. I feel like she can be a person in the sway of a cult, and there can be prosecutorial misconduct. Both things can be true at the same time. And I want to be open-minded to criticism and having people on who, well, I didn't, I wasn't necessarily, I guess, kind. So she can come on. I mean, I think that's only fair. And if I get beat up, then I get beat up. That's the that's the way it works. Now I've got actually another guest on, and or coming. He will be on next Monday, and this is somebody who is actually stemming out of a criticism of another guest. And this is Anthony Barnhart, aka Magic Tony. He is a psychologist and a magician, which is a fascinating combo because psychology, a lot of magic is actually psychology because you're forcing people to look one way or another. But he's coming in as being critical of a previous guest who I've had multiple times, Michelle Dresbold, who's a handwriting analysis expert and well regarded throughout the world. I very much enjoyed her. And he is pointing out that graphology, which she doesn't say, she says it's handwriting, she's a handwriting expert, but the graphology is a pseudoscience. Now, technically, if we're being honest about a lot of who I interview, body language experts, statement analysis, graphology, physiognomy, and physiognomy is face reading, these are all technically pseudosciences. You can't really use the scientific method to necessarily prove or disprove them. Does that mean this has no value? I'm going to say no. And I actually pulled an article for, those of you who want to read at home, but it's by Michael Shermer, who is editor of Skeptic Magazine. And it's talking about the trouble of pseudoscience. And I just want to point out that pseudoscience doesn't necessarily mean something is bad or evil or whatever. It's saying that it is not science. And therefore, it's very, very difficult to use the scientific method or anything else to prove it or disprove it. That does not mean, however, that there is no veracity whatsoever. A lot of these things have seemed to work, just can't quantify it. And I want to bring up as an example that we have fMRIs now that are proving emotions in people. So they're now able to actually see the brain when emotions shift or people are manipulated or they're reacting to different experiments, things that we could never see before. Those things that would have been called, guess what? Pseudoscience. So things can change over time, and we should be open to everything. So I'm going to have him on. I immediately decided to have him on when I saw that he was credentialed, he has experience, and he has a story. I want to be challenged. Being challenged is just fun and fascinating to me. It's, why do this if I, can't be challenged? So let's see. Couple more. Somebody asked if I was consider myself a broadcaster. I mean, let me see. Technically speaking, a broadcaster, no, because you'd have to actually be over a broadcast like airwaves, like FCC, whatever. But I guess I'm a bit of I'm a very small public figure. So sort of. I don't know. I put out a message, people listen or don't, and there we go. Have I thought about trying to get Tom Woods? You know, I haven't really thought about trying to get him. I might be able to get him. I think I'm like 1 degree of separation from him. He hasn't ever really been high on my list. Part of the problem is I have to do a lot of studying, and I'm not deep into all of that. Any interest in doing a once a month behavior panel show? I would love to do more the behavior panel, but it's extremely difficult for them to get 4 people, together themselves, because these guys are all top of the world pros, let alone anything else. That's difficult. Explain the locals charges. Is it per person per month? There's different ways that locals works. It is per person per month as one option. You also can buy, I believe it's called coins on locals. And let's go ahead and look at that. And the coins enable you to, I've got to open another window. Let me just go to the root here. Coins enable you to, put in X number of coins for each particular creator. And just to give you an idea, so you guys, understand that I also, support other creators. It's not like just a thing that I do or whatever. But if let's say I wanted to go here, I can buy locals coins, and you can buy a coin subscription, and that will allow you to put X number of coins on each creator. And I believe it's like 10 for $1, 10 coins is the equivalent of $1. So mine is, relatively cheap. I want everybody to feel comfortable, and I'm not trying to take a lot of money from people. I may raise it later on as it grows, but especially early on, because I feel like you guys are all helping me build this channel and everything, that I want you guys who are early to get in early when it's less expensive. And I only have it at $2 a month. Maybe I'll go to 3, but I'm not trying to get rich off of you. I'm just trying to build a really cool community and everything else. So I'm really thankful for you guys doing it. And please consider, that's actually the lowest that I am able to keep it is $2. I can't make it lower. Even if I tried, that the system itself won't even let me do it. Now, later on, I think they're talking about doing bundling and things like that. And I think that would be amazing if I could bundle with other creators who are maybe like-minded and things of that sort. That would be super cool, because we could go in there. Michael. All right. So I think I am going to good question. Somebody's asking if live chat, if I have to open it, or is it open and you can use it? I don't know. Give it a try. I'm not sure. That would be interesting. Very interesting. Not sure. Well, folks, and wow, I've run over. My God. I was praying that I could even get to an hour. So hour 24. I'm beyond thrilled. So they need to go to bed. I think that's fantastic. It's a good time to stop. And please consider, coming by locals. Please consider commenting. You obviously can comment on this video below. Most of all, I really want to know, do you like me doing this? Do you want me to do this more? I will be happy to, consider doing it or trying to fit it in. Obviously, it's works well in terms of being able to just get up here, do the scheduling and do it, but it is not, it's not in my comfort zone. But if you want it, I will happily do that. Again, without you guys, I'm nothing. You guys are everything to me, and I appreciate your support. So until next time, thank you.